Hi, and welcome to the CAFMA Connect. I'm your host, Fire Chief Scott Freitag, and this week, the CAFMA Connect is on the road. We're at the Prescott Valley Civic Center. Why are we here? We're here to commemorate the 20th anniversary of 9/11. Behind me, on Friday, there will be hundreds of volunteers out here putting up what they call the healing field, or 3,000 American flags to represent all those lost that day 20 years ago. They'll also have 19 Granite Mountain hotshot flags that'll be up as well. We're going to have a number of guests that come up and speak about their experience on 9/11 and their experience since 9/11 and how they are commemorating the 20th anniversary. For me, I think we all have a story about where we were and how we heard about the terrorist attacks that day.
I remember 2001, I was a brand new firefighter, Station 53. I actually lived right across the park where the horseshoe pits are at 53. And I was supposed to work at 8 o'clock that morning, and all of a sudden I just knew something was different. I heard my neighbors kind of screaming. I looked outside, and I didn't know what was going on. I turned on the news. My roommate says, "Look at this, it's like someone accidentally flew their plane in the World Trade Center." And I said, "Dang, that's terrible." All the firefighters on duty that were getting ready to get off duty were standing around the TV as another plane hit the World Trade Center.
I lived in New York, upstate New York, about 6 hours away from the Trade Center. I was working for a communication company. We had actually some crews that were working down in the city, probably within a few miles of the Trade Center. They had just gotten in there that morning, and I had just gotten into my office. And one of the guys called and said, "Hey, what the heck's going on? Did you guys, have you seen the news? Something's going on. They're trying to keep us from getting in. They're telling us to turn around, get back out. We're not sure what to do." And it wasn't seconds later, I flipped on a TV I had in the office. They, showed the first plane going into the Trade Center. I believe it was the North Tower was the first one, and it didn't seem like it was a terror attack at first. It definitely, I guess it was surreal anyway. It just didn't seem like that would be even possible. So we just watched, and it wasn't much longer that the second one hit, and you could sense immediately the fear in our crews, and no matter who you talk to, we knew something was just definitely going on.
I remember at that time I was a firefighter, and I was taking paramedic training down in Phoenix at Glendale Community College. I normally wake up very early. I was up at about 4:30 that morning and was watching the national news, and I saw the first plane hit into the World Trade Center. They kept replaying it, and they kind of noted that they felt like it was an aviation accident, and they kind of tossed it off as that multiple times. As I kept watching, and they were showing more of the fire and some of the response from the emergency responders in New York City, they turned around and as they were showing one of those scenes coming up and panning up from the World Trade Center, all of a sudden the second plane hit the second tower. But I immediately went over to one of the fire stations because I had to pick up the other firefighter that was also in paramedic training, and we both traveled down to Phoenix together. As we were driving down, I remember going through a myriad of emotions, kind of just in disbelief more so than anything else, but realizing at that point, if this was truly a terrorist attack, that this was going to be life-altering for everyone. I remember subsequent to that, turning around and telling my family after finding out about some of the other incidents with the Pentagon and the other plane that crashed, that this was going to change our lives, and it was going to have an impact on us no matter who you were.
September 11, 2001, I was a junior in high school at Prescott High School. My family had just moved here from Indianapolis, Indiana. I was only 15 years old. I had skipped a grade, but I was in the formative years of my life, trying to figure out what I wanted to do after high school for an occupation. Prior to that, I thought I was going to be a professional athlete, but my size dictated that wasn't going to happen. So I was in the process of trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life. On September 11th, I remember walking to school and I got the news from friends that planes had flown into the Twin Towers. And I didn't really understand as a 15-year-old what that entailed and what that meant. And not being a pilot, I thought, well, maybe somebody just made a mistake. And that's when the first tower that fell came down when I was in first period in Spanish class at Prescott High School. At that point, it started to hit me that hundreds or thousands or tens of thousands, we didn't know at that point, had certainly died during that event.
For me, I was an engine company captain at Station 3 on Elm Street in the city of St. Charles. We were out checking the engine out that morning, and my wife sent me a text. Back then, we didn't have a cell phone, so I got a pager message to call her, which was unusual. I called her, she told me to turn on the TV, and I turned it on just in time, got my crew inside to see the second plane hit the second tower. And from there, the Pentagon, and then Shanksville, Pennsylvania. We backed the engine back in the station, and we waited. All day we stayed glued to the TV. Mixed emotions of anger and concern and fear. What is happening in our country right now, and could we be a target?
After that, I guess it was strange. It didn't matter. I think, at first, upstate New Yorkers and downstate New Yorkers kind of feel they're two different groups. But at that point, it just felt like it didn't matter who you were. Everybody felt the same feeling. Nothing mattered but what was going on. And, what happens now? What do we do now?
Days and weeks after that, as everything came out and we realized that it was an actual attack on our country, me being 15 years old, that gave me a sense of anger and what can I do to help my country. Seeing the pictures of the firefighters going into the Twin Towers and helping all that they did there in New York City opened my eyes for the first time to the profession of becoming a fireman. And that's what drove me a couple years later at CAFMA College to start taking fire science classes. Along with that, when I turned 18 in 2004, I went to the Army recruitment office and enlisted into the Army. So both my careers, I've been in the military now for 17 years and fire department for over 10 years. So both of my careers were you can lead back to September 11th and everything that happened that day and me deciding what I wanted to do with my life. In 2004, I joined the military. Basically, I felt that being an 18-year-old able-bodied man, that I was a hypocrite if I didn't help my country. And that was a way for me to give back and fight the evil that presented itself on September 11th.
I've never been in the armed forces, the military. I respect them 100%. My way of giving back is I make flags. One's on the CAFMA Connect. That's just how I maybe show my patriotism. It's just, I love American art, so that's what I do, and this is what I can give.
I was really kind of surprised at how quickly everyone's disbelief then turned into a opportunity for citizenship and being kind to one another and being patriotic about the nation and being galvanized on that we were stronger and able to survive all of this, and being strong in our beliefs that this was the greatest country in the world and that we could overcome this. I think that I really tried hard with my children to have them remember, and every year we watch news coverage about this, we watch recordings about it. I've had my children come out and help me with healing fields and with other events to be able to have them remember how important this day was.
After that first day, after those attacks, there was this overwhelming sense of patriotism, pride in our country and pride in our flag. It was amazing across the nation, and with losing 343 firefighters in one event, we had a lot of folks in our community that really rallied around the fire departments, and that, I believe that was around the country. They were dropping off cookies and brownies and just stopping by to say hi and making cards to say thank you. I don't think I've seen that sort of patriotism in our country prior to that day, and to be quite honest with you, I haven't seen it lately either.
After 20 years, I can still, probably like most, so you can picture exactly where you were, exactly what you said, exactly who you talked to. It's still very familiar, that day and what took place.
I am also somewhat saddened that in 20 years' time that we've become such a divisive nation again, and that we have, in many ways, we swore that we would not forget this, and we would not forget 9/11, but a lot of people have already kind of gotten to the point where if they didn't live through it, it really didn't happen. And it kind of saddens me for that. But I really try hard to remember how important it was for us as a country to remember where our values are as a country, and also what citizenship meant to us. And then on top of that is to help with my children so that they understand how important that is as well. That it's never forgotten and it's never lost over the generations.
I went to Warrant Officer School and pilot training for the Army just a few years back, and I was the old guy in the group, and there were young lieutenants in my class that were in diapers on September 11th, and they had no memory of, personal memory of the incident on September 11th, and it's just eye-opening that how quick in a couple decades that if we don't continue to pass that history and knowledge on of what happened, and those people, the next generation can forget that, and we could allow history to repeat itself.
But we're gonna see it here. We're gonna see it here behind me on this field this weekend, commemorating that 20th anniversary. There will be hundreds of people that come out, listen to our speakers, and people throughout the week that just walk through each one of the flags. 343 fire boots representing the 343 firefighters lost. Every one of the 3,000 flags has a name on it, a tag that has a name and the person's information that's on the field. And there's a catalog that you can look at. If you know someone, if you're in Prescott Valley or you're in the area, you know someone that died on 9/11, you're able to go to the information booth and look that information up and find that person in the row at exactly what flag their name is on. There's teddy bears tied to flags or sitting at the base of flags for some of the children that were lost in the planes. So many heroes that day, and not just the fire department, not just the law enforcement officers or EMS or the military. There were average people who were sitting in cubicles next to each other, who did their best to guide their coworkers to safety. Some made it, some didn't. There's so many heroes that we're never gonna know about from that day.
If you'd like to volunteer for the Healing Field, please go to our website, www.healingfieldpv.com, and go to the volunteer page. We hope to see you, and I hope to see you Saturday night at our program. Thank you.